Hey guys, this video was a request from a few members in the 6.2 section on how to disassemble and rebuild an alternator. I have two alternators here, a 10 SI 63 amp and the remains of anyways, a 12 SI 78 amp. This one will not separate fan-wise, it is all seized, so hopefully we can get this one apart. First, you have to remove this big nut here that holds on the pulley and the fan. To do that, I always use this little Betty right here. I set the camera down so I can do this without breaking anything. And let's see, can you see that? I don't think so. There we go. Little bump. Use something to hold it still here. Little tap. And that's it. Let's disconnect that because it likes to leak, and I'm sure the air compressor will kick on in the middle of this video, making a lot of racket, but okay, nut is off. Remove the lock washer. Actually, correction, it's just a flat washer. Remove the pulley. Some of them have spacers in between this pulley and the fan, like so. If you take a look, you can see under the pulley there is a spacer there on the 12 SI. Now, sometimes the fan is stuck. This one's been off recently to be painted, so it comes right off. Set that over here with the pulley. Try to keep everything in the order it was. If you notice on the pulley, one side is rusted, one side is clean. The clean side was facing down, and just set everything in place there. Now, it's very important that you do not rotate this shaft with the fan and pulley removed, because if you listen closely, you can hear it move. There's no tension on the bearings. It is not pulled forward, so you can cause damage. Correction, I didn't notice. There's the spacer I was speaking of earlier. So we set that aside as well. This is probably going to be a several part video because my camera sucks, but alright, flip the alternator over. And you got 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me find the right socket here. Somewhere in this mess is the correct socket to remove. There she is. That nut there. Now, please excuse this disaster. I'm trying to find a nut driver. I'm probably never going to find one in this mess, though. Oh, look. I love it when a plan comes together, sometimes at least. Should probably get this while I'm at it. Alright, now. We'll have a seat back here. Like I said, my camera sucks. It just quit on me, so we left off at me trying to find a nut driver, like so, to remove these 4 bolts. I also have a screwdriver here to help wiggle the case free. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set this camera here. Probably going to turn off on me again. Right like that. I know you can't see too well, but I'm sorry about that. It's positioned on the vise next to the bench, so we will pop these free. Like so. They're really not in that tight, so if they do not want to turn, I do not recommend forcing them, because if you snap them, then you're going to be into a whole nother arena of trying to get out the snapped bolt from the case, which is not fun. Since these are aluminum cases and steel bolts, the bolts tend to the dissimilar metals seize together, and usually you can either break one or you can pull the threads out of the aluminum housing. Not a good day. Alright, last couple of bolts here. Set them aside. Come on, you. Come out of there. There we go. There's 3. And there's 4. All 4 bolts are out of the case. Now what you're going to do, rotate the alternator here. This steel spacer is the separator between the front and the rear of the case. Now you have to be careful when separating, because if you look closely, Actually, I don't think you can see it. It's too dark. But if you look very closely, you see there's the armature moving very slightly. Inside here, they're actually right here. You just can't see them. And I don't have a flashlight here, do I? Across the workshop, but those windings are held in the back to the diode trio. If you just go prying in there to pop things apart, you're going to pull the windings out with the front of the case and rip them off the diode trio, therefore destroying your alternator. Now, this one, like I said, this one's been apart recently. And there goes that damn air compressor. I knew it. I knew it. Shut up, you. Oh, while I'm up, I might as well grab that flashlight for you guys so I can show you the windings. Okay, does it work? Yes, it does. Very good. Something works in this mess. Oh, boy. Alright, now, you look in there, you can see the windings. This camera really bugs me. It just loves to stop recording after a certain amount of time. You can see the windings in there. So we'll put that aside. I will set you back down here to where you can just barely see what I'm doing. Need something to shim the camera with. Bloody hell. Oh, maybe this will work. Oh, good enough. Okay, now, I'm going to take the alternator. You're going to find a mild hammer. This one's a little overkill for this job. But you're going to tap lightly around the ring. This one should separate fairly easily. Usually what I do is on the 4 points where the screws go, I will set the screwdriver and I will give it just a very slight, is the key word, pry. Rotating the screwdriver to separate the case very slowly, very carefully. Case has been separated. As you can see here, the case is now separated right here. Front of case, rear of case. Now, oh boy, running out of room here really quickly. Dirty workbench. Excuse me. Pull apart the case, like so. As you can see, now the case has been disassembled. I'm actually holding the front of the case here in my hand. There is your front bearing. This one is actually damaged, but since I have a replacement alternator, I am not repairing this one at the time. Those bearings are usually fully sealed, and if you look closely, you can actually see the ball bearings in there. The seal has either disintegrated or fallen out over the years because this alternator is very old. This alternator is from 1982. Okay, set the case aside. Now, again with the camera positioning garbage, let's see. That works. You're going to grab the armature, lift up slowly. And I don't know if you heard that click from all the way over there, but that click was the brushes popping free. The brushes ride on the commutator here. This commutator is actually fairly clean. I cleaned it up, but the first time I disassembled this alternator, these rings were a dark green color, and I was having a very difficult voltage problem where any load on the electrical system would kill the voltage down to about 10 volts or so. Alright, now, internals. Let's see here. Again, with the lack of light. That damn flashlight again. Okay. You see what I mean by there's the three connections rather, to your diode trio. Trio 3 connections. Yeah, you think I'd get that right. So if you were to pull, and this thing keeps shutting off on me. You pull and these windings pop out, and you're in big trouble because you will have ripped them out of their connections. The diode trio, the regulator can be seen over here. You can actually see the connection where, if you look right here where I'm pointing, there is the connection for your regulator controls from your harness. Here are the brushes. You can just see them right in the center there sticking out. And the brush springs. These are rusted and in awful condition, but I suppose I've seen a lot worse. Now, really simple to disassemble the guts from here. It's just a removal of bolts and nuts to pull everything out. Usually when you rebuild an alternator, you replace the regulator, the brushes. Sometimes the brush holder themselves, because the brush holder can get worn out and it can crack. It is only plastic. And you re-grease the bearings. It's all I've ever done, and and they've survived. If you look very closely, I don't think you can make, actually, maybe, just maybe. Let me see if I zoom in a little. No. Figures the zoom doesn't work. Okay. You can just barely see the GM right there, the little square next to the terminal on the left, right under it. This is a completely original alternator, which would explain its condition and why it looks so worn out. But that's alternator disassembly, and you pretty much reverse the process to reinstall everything. I'm going to end this section of the video now, and I will put it back together once I find a piece of welding wire to show you how to reseat the brushes in here. Give me 5 minutes. Alright guys, I'm back. Now, these 3 bolts come out here. Let me see if I can use this here. Can you see that? Yep. 1, 2, 3. This will come out as well, as will the brush holder. This hole here is where you slide the brushes back and stick this, in my case, piece of welding wire through, and it will come out the back of the case right there. Once you reassemble everything, including armature back in place and the case back together, you can actually just pull that wire out and it will reseat the brushes onto the commutator rings. That way you'll be all set to put your alternator on a test bench, kind of like that one over in the corner over there. It's not the greatest thing, but for the price I paid, I can live with it. Now, I have to go put this up on the computer and erase this chip so I can do alternator reassembly. I'll be back.